Okay, Scott, you're on.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Finance Powwow. I'd like to introduce our special guest here, Dan Baldwin, and I'd like to that was too quick. So I wanted to do a membership program in my local area, Santa Barbara, and I had no idea. But I saw an email from Dan saying, you guys can do this and I'll help you. And he did. He gave me so many tools, materials. He made a personal contact with me. And then he'd call me and say, hey, just wanted to check in. Did you do those things you said you'd do last week? How's it going? You need any support? And it was an amazing feeling that I got. That, wow, we're not alone here in Santa Barbara. There's a mothership that cares about us and has people that have bandwidth to help me. And I know that if Dan wouldn't have helped me, there would never be a membership program in our center. And I think just like what Dan does, the heart that he brings in collaboration with awesome organization is just beautiful. So I'm really honored to have him here today. Turning over to you, Dan. Scott, did you mute Dan?
Oh, there we go. All right. Now I'm here. Thanks. What a great lead in, Scott. Yeah, I've been doing this for about 2.5 years now, and have had great experience when I'm able to engage areas. All I need is a little bit of support, and so much can happen. So it was a pleasure to help Scott in Santa Barbara. If you want to show our next slide here, that would be great for the men here. So I just created this and sent it out across there. It's how to organize a successful outreach and membership campaign. And as financial coordinators, there are many financial coordinators that have shown up and assisted, Scott McGregor being one. But there's many ways to assist in organizing the campaign. And the first is to create that awareness at your stewardship council. Hey, the spring membership drive is coming up. I've heard this great stuff about Dan Baldwin. Let's just engage him and talk to him about how to create a campaign and how to create an outreach team. And any energy on your level as financial coordinator showing up and sharing why this is so important can help lead to that tipping point of being able to create a team. So we're doing the spring membership drive coming up in May. We do them twice a year, once in May and then and once in the fall. And we've learned some really good ways of doing this that are simple, that don't take a lot of heroic energy. There's some basic concepts to doing it, and that is create a sense of urgency, share why this is important, and there's so many reasons why an outreach and membership campaign is important. The number one thing is to engage and reach out to our brothers and find out who's still around. I've made so many phone calls where when I'm calling, this is the first time they've ever heard from a brother, that a brother has even called them after their weekend. I've heard 6 months later, Dan Baldwin, that you remember that call you gave me 6 months ago and I never returned it, and you left that message. And at the time I didn't even really think much about it, but because of that phone call 6 months later, when I did go through a divorce or did lose my job, and I went on a hard time, it was that phone call that made me remember MKP, and that there was a place to go. And it probably saved my life because I was pretty desperate and pretty depressed at that time. So the power of these outreach can be incredible. iGroups have been created from these outreach calls. And Scott McGregor coined a really cool term a year ago when we were working on this together. Is it's a friend-raising drive first and a fundraising drive second. So coming from our hearts, we reach out and share that we have an important thing that we're doing in the world. There's so much that can be accomplished, and we ask men, do you want to be a part of it? And even if they don't have time to participate in iGroups or to show up on regular meetings, there are many men that have been through this weekend that do still care. And the easiest way to stay connected is for them to contribute a little bit of money too. So even if they're not wanting to be involved at a level of iGroups, I find that oftentimes when I ask them, well, would you like to support us at least? Just like the Girl Scouts, or just like the Save the Crane Foundation, or the Save Men Foundation, or Improve the World through positive male role models, and they'll often want to give. So in creating a sense of urgency is sharing that this is what will survive our organization and create a sustaining long-term organization in the long run. Membership is critical to any nonprofit organization. And being able to share that message that please get on board, just do what you can, call 5 men a week, or just during this month, will you sign up to be a part of a team that calls 10 men? A real small ask, and realizing that sharing why it's important is a way to invite them. And then you organize a team and you ask them for a small act of service, that small little act that they do. And I find that most people, when they make those 5 phone calls, they like it and they want to make more. And they come back again and again and again whenever they're invited to help out. They're like, sure, I'll help out again. That was great. So I invite everybody. I don't go to the same go-to guys that are in my inner circle. I grab those new brothers. I grab people I've never talked to before, because when I reach out to them personally and invite them, it lets them know that they've been seen, and that it's about a personal invite, which is my number 3. It's a personal invite from Dan Baldwin to hang out with me. I like you and I see you. Will you come and have some fun with me and make some phone calls with me? So being seen, I think, can be turned around to something beautiful. And when it's just a small ask, it's no longer of, oh, what am I committing to? And the fear of accountability. It's no, come and just make a couple phone calls with me. Let's do something beautiful in the world. I make it fun and easy. That's another critical step for organizing a team, is calling parties. I'll invite people and just say, come on over to my house, or we'll do a Zoom call. And me and Scott, we've had many funs in Santa Barbara, and I get to know so many people, and I don't even live in Santa Barbara, just by hanging out with them and say, all right, let's go make 5 phone calls. All right, good job tonight. We did it. And then another key successful piece is to celebrate. I can't emphasize this, the celebration model, that we emulate what we celebrate. That the more we hold up what is good in the world, the more people aspire to be in that goodness. So those are some 5 basic key elements on how to do a successful campaign. If you can go to the next slide for me, Scott. I've made this really simple for men. So if there's 1 or 2 or 3 men that just want to help with organizing the team, I've created all these links, and the tools for membership outreach and membership are right there. They have how to organize a successful campaign. It goes into more detail on how to even create an outreach team, and the outreach lookup tools that are there, and scripts, and all the brochures, anything a person would want to help out. So these are there for you if you're out there talking and you run into an iGroup, or you want to take this back to your iGroup, because I imagine many of you men are in iGroups. You can download the membership brochure and take it to your iGroup and say, hey, here's a brochure on membership. Let's talk about it. And you can refer anybody to these tools in order to be able to help them. If we can go on to the next slide as well. So I'm going to give you 2 examples of a successful campaign. Here's one
Can I jump in for a second?
Sure.
Go back 1 slide, Scott. I can't emphasize enough just how helpful this was. Like, to have scripts and sample emails and tips on asking, it really takes guys who want to help but are nervous and think they can't do it, to giving them confidence and some simple steps to follow. Just really grateful you put that together.
Oh, thanks, Scott. So this is one man did it. He got 50 members in 10 days. Wow, just on his own. by saying, I'm going to put an hour a day into this over the next 10 days. And he made it important. That was one of the things, is he sent out one inspirational email message to the listserv every day, sharing why it's important, some aspect of it. And it was a personal one. These are men. This is a center, an area administrator, Richard Torres, that did this, and he sent them to the people he knew, and he sent them to the listener to know, saying, support me, support all the volunteers that are here, that are working so hard with getting better IT. Support the next man as far as giving this gift away to the next man so we can keep the NWTA prices low. There's so many different reasons why to do it, and he mixed it up. And in the tools, there's inspirational emails that you can grab and make and personalize from your own personal approach. I often encourage, when somebody's doing this, Richard didn't do this that much, but another cool way of doing this is when you're sending that inspirational email out, you ask 3 or 4 friends to respond to that email and echo off of it. It's called the first follower approach, and you have followers that are echoing off of it. But that's just a cool little tool that I talk to when we talk to membership teams. But you men too can, during the membership campaign, please, if you could, from a financial perspective, share why this is important to your area's budget. The more men, and ask other men to chime in and talk. So in his 1 hour a day, he sent one inspirational email. He called 5 men a day to help, people that he knew, people that were on the stewardship council, people that he was staffing with, just 5 phone calls. Often it was just leaving a message. You know, those 5 phone calls are just 1 minute attempts to talk to somebody, and you might get 1 out of 10 men that you call. So, but he's putting it out there and they're hearing it, and they're letting you know that membership is important, that you're trying to do something. And even if they don't say yes, they're caring and feeling how important membership is and how important outreach is, and that'll echo with them throughout the year. And he called 10 men a day that were active and were not members, that are currently in V groups or through lists that I provided, that we provide every month. We provide lists to area administrators and area stewards of men that are up for renewal, new brothers that have been around for a year, and he just decided to call 10 a day. Again, getting hold maybe 1 or 2, but most of it is leaving that message, and many of them did respond.
I love that one, Dan, because for me, so you wrote down there, low-hanging fruit. I mean, these are guys that it's like I'm in iGroup with them or I'm friends with them. We staff together. They just don't know. They just need to be reminded. There's no having to sell it. So it's so sweet.
Yeah. So that's one approach, from a one-man perspective approach. If you want to go to the next slide, here's what Greater Carolina did. Daryl Hansom and Bruce Maxwell, they organized a virtual calling party involving all the communities in their area. And they have 5 communities there, so they had 5 community coordinators to go to, and they held space. I'm asking every community to come up with 2 to 3 men at least to join in on this calling party. And what they did is they used our outreach tool, which automatically organizes men by community. So men were calling people within 10 miles of themselves, within 15 miles of themselves. And first, starting from that fundraising approach, which is asking them, hey, we're doing stuff in the community. Do you want to be a part? How are you doing, brother? And reaching out to all those men that have gone through the weekend over the last 5 to 10 years in Greater Carolina. An incredible way to jumpstart communities and getting more men involved. Not a lot of work either. Okay, so let's say we're looking at low-hanging fruit, how to see who is in a V group and who's not a member. So I grabbed the MKP USA Unified Finance V group here, grabbed the first page and use it as a screenshot. And you can easily see in this particular V group that on the first page, there's 2 men. There's more that are not, that are currently have not renewed their membership or are in need of becoming a member. All you do is go find a V group, and if you have the ability to see who's in a V group, you're able to see this. So please check out your V group and your iGroups and see who's a member or not, and just pick 5, 10 men and send them a courtesy email. Hey, membership means so much. to what I do as finance. Membership is supporting a lot of the IT that finance is here to support you. All these new things that are making your job easier. Well, that's a lot of membership money at work as well as the support of Scott McGregor and everything we do at MKP USA Support Services about supporting you and the volunteers. So we're very tight with our budget. Scott's very good at helping us. So with more resources, we'll be able to produce and even do better stuff. My personal approach is the ninja approach. I'm a ninja, so I don't let them know. I don't let them know I'm creating the team. So I just call people, and I figure I'll probably need to call 25 people in an area or in my community to get the team together. And I say, hey, will you come on over to my house? For a party. I also got an ask for, I want you to come on over. I like you. I want to spend more time with you, and I'm going to ask you to come and help me do this, which is call 5 people with me. I'm a little nervous myself. I figure it'll be a lot more fun if we all do it together, and then we'll have some fun together afterwards. And what happens is people will say yes or no based on their availability. But they always have thanked me and said, wow, Dan, you always include me with everything you're doing. I really feel you're a brother. And then what happens is as I do this several times over the year, if I don't invite them, they feel insulted in some ways, and they feel that they're a part of that team. And then if I'm not able to hold up, I know that there's men on that team, because we've been doing it so much, that would cover my back, and I can slowly fade out and get a little bit busy and say, hey, John, would you cover the next one for me, or help me take on the next step? And suddenly a leader emerges out of that group, and then they're self-contained and going on their own. And it's incredible how many men come up with new inspiring ideas, and it's off and running because it's fun, it's rewarding, they look forward to it, and it's not this thing of who's going to be the membership coordinator, now get to work, and accountability. That's all good stuff. It does take a leader to step up and say, I'm going to do something, but it doesn't have to be that hard of work. It can be as simple as making 10 phone calls to start a huge avalanche of participation. And you don't ever have to do it alone, because if you want to do any of this, you have me, you have Scott McGregor, you have Scott Ryder. We're here. And you get to hang out with me. How cool is that? So I invite you all. Call me anytime. Everybody knows that I'm around. I often work late at night, so if you're on the West Coast and it's 10 o'clock at night, you can even still call me then. If I'm available, I will answer. If not, I'll call within 24 hours. Yes, I do have a life, but I'm living mission. This is so much more than a job for me, and I believe outreach, reaching out to our brothers, is probably one of the most important things we can do to make a difference in the world. To have this sense of you matter, I see you, and I want you to be around. With that, I'm in.
Oh, thanks, Dan. You could stay a little bit?
You bet. You bet.
Let's see. I'm really appreciating your presentation. I suspect it's generated some thoughts and either ideas or questions, so we'll open it to the group.
It's exciting, Dan. Thank you.
We don't have that very many people here. Maybe if we could check in. Another thing that holds space for is the icks and the ooks and the I have a story I say is when membership first came around, I said that made me want to puke, and I was one of the biggest resistors, and now I'm the biggest proponents. And there's a lot of lukewarm, and we were talking about it today. People stuck in molasses or areas or communities. Can we just do a little check-in on how do you feel you're supported, or your area is doing around the concept of outreach and membership? And we could do a little bit. All right, Guy, would you be willing to share?
Yeah, sure. It's weird. I'm still sharing screen, so I can't see you guys as I'm talking. I'm just standing, staring into the presentation. So this is kind of weird for me. Um, so I can speak for me and what I've noticed since I've become the area financial coordinator, and that is I feel like as far as financial issues, I feel like I get the support I need from the Scots. Those have been the two people I reach out to if I have any questions. I'm also getting a lot of help from the former AFC, Sean Benson, out here in the LA community, and he's been really helping me a lot. So I feel like it's still a process. I'm still learning as I go. I just started. Um, that's the that's the connection I'm feeling as far as any support from the community. I haven't really been involved in any of the outreach stuff. Scott Kaiser does that work. So I can't, I don't know what he's experiencing, but at least from the financial standpoint, I feel very happy with the support I've been given. I always feel like I can ask any questions and I get responses pretty quickly. So that's my take.
I love that you shared that. Obviously. And Guy, do you know, is there a guy in LA that's taken commitment to membership? Like I'm the membership guy?
I think that's Scott Kaiser here. I think anytime I see anybody doing recruiting for the NWTA, I always feel like it's him. And he's just amazing. I mean, the data that I get, I'm not talking to him too often about it, but the data I'm getting from him is either posts on the Facebook page or through emails, and he's saying, hey, I just got another guy. So what I see is it looks great, but I don't know what he's experiencing as far as from any need of support or whatnot.
Okay, thanks. That's something I'd like to hear from everybody, if there's a designated person in your community.
Yeah, Scott's really about enrollment and not about membership or outreach. So I just put you out there as if you could in any way. I know they're struggling in LA with a little bit around who would be willing to make outreach calls, and just I know membership is a part of every finance budget is also to encourage blend your membership together and ask your stewardship council what are our plans for the next year around expanding membership and outreach.
So I can jump in if you want.
Sure.
How many, is there just the four of us on the call at the moment? I see 4 pictures. Is there someone on the phone or am I missing?
Scott, can you unscreen share so we can see each other?
Yeah, and you can hit up on the top right corner, make it gallery view, and you'll be able to see everybody.
I can, yeah, so, I see there's a couple. There you go. Look at that. They go wider and wider. So I'm brand new. And I'm not aware of much drive for membership. We have great enrollment, but I think it would be Bill Davies, and someone might be able to correct me out there. He's our community guy who would be designated for that. But I've yet to be even to a council meeting. There's one coming up soon. So I'm going to check in with ignorance.
Welcome. Your ignorance is welcome here.
Thank you.
So I walk from the Northwest. We have, a real bad echo. Is anybody else hearing that?
Yeah. No. I think it's you, Walt. You're the only one that's not muted.
Turn your volume down.
Try it.
Nope. You turned it off.
All right, Walt, everybody's muted except for you. Yep, it is you.
Okay, I can't talk. Anyway, tell them what I told you this morning.
Yeah, Walt checked in with me this morning on the operations call and shared they're starting to get some momentum. They're just really getting their hands around it now. And there's a community coordinator that stepped up, Paul, who is going to help with the lead, supported by Adam, the area steward. And there's been elders and talk about engagement of the elders and their interest in supporting outreach and membership as well. So yeah, they're starting to move along there in the Northwest.
This is Robert, checking in from the Greater Carolinas, where we called 300 men in a day. My house was overwhelmed, overfilled with men and computers and phones and wild communication and talk. It was great. And I said, no, I'm not taking this one on. But it was great. So we do have a membership outreach, and that is Daryl Handsome with the backup of Bruce Maxwell. And we just got a enrollment coordinator in the Asheville area. And I'm asking the Scots on this one. Is there another community in MKP USA like Asheville? No.
You are unique.
Hey, avant-garde again. So we have a unique situation where we have 5 iGroups that meet every week on the same night. And so my challenge as a finance coordinator is the argument that there's a difference between what we have as lodge fees, supporting our community, and all the outreach we do with public service and public relations, setting up booths at various venues, along with homecomings and other activities. We're getting ready to have our 3rd annual MKP retreat in August and opening that up to the Greater Carolinas. Just a weekend of fun and frolic and no scheduled processes. But the argument is, I hear it from a lot of men in the community, is why should we support MKP USA if we have to support Asheville? And I'm trying to come in from every angle I can with the difference. And there's a huge difference. And but I still hear the resistance about why should we support MKP USA. So I keep fighting with that. And the last email I sent out was, I made the approach of how many men have benefited from going to or being a participant of a homecoming. And if we didn't have community dues and lodge fees, we wouldn't have been able to do that. Versus, here's what MKP USA is doing, and if we didn't support them, they couldn't help us. So I think I'm chinking away at the wall. I'm not sure. I'm in with that.
Oh, Robert, thank you. That's especially a common tension when we have lodges at play. You're not in a unique situation. There's a handful of communities that do have lodges, and they charge iGroup rent and things like that. So please do engage with me. I have some, we talked about it for a good 20 minutes. I was sharing today on the operations call about that. And I do have some support material as well as some concepts around how to explain it. But you're right on. It is about the both, that they're 2 unique, very different things. One is all of us in the cause and the larger cause. And then the individual need for a space for iGroups, and having 2 separate distinct asks happening, and I can share how to do that well later on with you. Okay, so, or any man that has that unique situation, please do come talk to me. How about Dan Daly? Would you be willing to go next?
Sure. I think we're fairly low in how many men are members of MKP USA, and it's a task I'm willing to take on. So I'll see if I can get some people to help me. If it's something I'm willing to lead.
Oh, Dan, what area are you from, Dan?
Central Great Lakes.
Central Great Lakes, yeah. You got some wonderful supporters there in Central Great Lakes. Rod Clay and many other men that did participate about 2 years ago in helping it. It's just bringing the team back and the band back. And this goes for anybody that's in that situation of willing to do a little bit. I kind of like to talk about who's responsible for safety on the weekend. We all are. Who's responsible for the sustainability of our organization? We all are. Do what you can, what little piece that you can. And if you can stand up large, like Dan was talking about right now, please do. And but no matter what, do carve out a corner here, whether it's an email, whether it's 5 things, or whether it's supporting the man saying, I can't do the full lead, but is there another man that would be willing to help with organizing this 1 hour, couple hours a month? And I will certainly show up and support you, brother, in your leadership activity in doing this. I believe so much of this is about, we don't do things alone. We do the things in teams and circles and in a form of brotherhood. And Dan, I'm here for you. Okay. Call me.
Okay, thanks.
Anyone else want to share?
Greg Scott, Colorado. I'll talk less loud. Yeah, we, I don't know who knows our past, but right about the time of the Act 2 study, we were in our own experiment of trying to be more than just MKP. Trying to do some things for women and families and children. And the experiment failed. We didn't have enough money. We were underfunded, and it just didn't work. And so we were one of the first, if not the first, to unify. That's what we really wanted all along, was a strong MKP USA, a professional nonprofit organization. So in that whole process, we kind of lost any momentum we had. Our I groups had been standalone, not communicating with anybody in the council. We still held our NWTAs, but just not much momentum of any sort to do anything more. But recently, we've had an I group chair who's reached out, and we have 2 communities, Boulder and Denver, and we've had gatherings in the community, and they've been very well received. So we've really been trying to start with I groups and get some of those men on board. Hopefully, those are the low-hanging fruit. I think there's some momentum building. We just need those bodies, those men to form the ninja teams to do something. And our I groups are where we're planning to do that. But we're just really trying to get going again. And we have a lot of members, well, not necessarily dues paying members, but men who have been through the NWTA in our community. So I think if we reach out and get just a few of those, we'll be on the path again. But it's been difficult after our experiment and after the whole MKP USA reorganization, and so we're struggling, but we're making headway. So that's where we are.
Greg, I've been connected with Colorado the last year and a half, watching it struggle, and I just got to say, your super I group idea, for those that haven't heard the term before, it's just wonderful to see you guys do this and how it's showing up in both Boulder and Denver. I showcased that on the I group council steering call, this idea of I groups once a month coming together and forming a larger group where they do a little bit of work and a little bit of activity together. It's just beautiful, Greg.
Yeah, it's a lot of that has in the past happened at NWTAs. Men reconnect at the NWTA, but that's a big commitment to do it in WPA. So the lower level commitment of just an evening looks a lot better.
Robert, can you mute?
Well, I was going to say something.
Then don't.
Follow up. You done, Greg?
Done.
So in the Asheville, the first Wednesday of every month, we have what we call a community meeting, which is closed to initiated brothers only. And like a month before or two, we have some man step up and lead the meeting around some issue. It's not necessarily a process. It's not carpet work. We've done things like watch movies, warrior movies, and discussed them. We've watched movies around racism and sexism and homophobia and had a discussion about them. We've led multicultural workshops. We've had workshops on death and dying and doing the 5 wishes. So we've had breath work. So it's not the same as a super I group, but we do all gather one night a month. And it does really have a different energy. And I'm really grateful for it.
So Dan and I talk about this quite a bit, and he's been saying this is the essence for activating a community, creating brotherhood, and then all of these things that we want to do together be so much easier. And I'm appreciating hearing that, yeah, Greg and Robert are doing it in their areas. Dan, thank you. I want to save some time for the second half of our presentation, and we could go on all day with the membership. Yeah, check out for us. And you're welcome to stay. You're muted.
I just want to bless you, man. Volunteers are the heart of our organization, and you men holding these financial roles, the giveaway that you do, the incredible professional expertise that you bring to this unique aspect of what needs to be done, and integrating that head with that heart. Integrated men is what we're about. And gosh, tonight just inspired by you. So thank you.
Thanks, Dan. I suggest we do some small transition before we turn it over to Scott Ryder, and he goes back to the screen share. So I invite everyone to stand up out of your chairs and just wiggle your body or do something, maybe make a sound. Ah! Thank you, Dan Baldwin. And I'll let you judge when it's time to continue, Scott.
Okay. So, ready to jump in the deep end here from a financial standpoint? Yeah. So, one of the questions that Scott and I have received multiple times over the past year is what's the role of the area financial coordinator? And so we wanted to spend some time this month talking a little about what that role is and the energy we hold. And I say we because I am the area financial coordinator for San Diego. So many times I sit in your shoes on this end. And so what is our role? And the first role is that we are the voice. We are the financial voice of the council for our community, for our area. And to that extent, we hold space in terms of what we should be doing, what we should not be doing, and sort of keeping order from a financial standpoint when it comes to running expenses and driving revenue in the community itself. So we are the holders of the budget. We know what our agreement is in terms of what we can spend, what we shouldn't spend. And at the same time, we need to hold that energy for our community because many times they're not aware of what's available and what's coming up in terms of expenses and revenue. At the same time, we're this gatekeeper in terms of what you can do and what you can't do, and what you're required to do, but we're also the angel of mercy. We want to make it easier for our men. The whole point of unification is not to create this added red tape, this bureaucracy about, no, you can't do that. We want to make it easier for men. And so if there are ways that we've been doing it in the past and it's not ideal under the new model because we're now an audited firm and there are certain things that we're required to do from an IRS standpoint to keep good records and maintain good internal controls. It's about understanding, conveying that understanding to these men, but also finding ways that we can allow them to have the autonomy that they've had in the past, but do so and under this new structure, this new umbrella. And so really our goal, the second purpose of our life is to make things easier on our men, to find ways that we can continue to have this autonomy, to allow them to do what they need to do, what they need to do to help promote community within our areas, and all the while maintaining fiscal control. And then what this leads to is a happy community. If they understand what we can do, what we cannot do, what we're required to do, but at the same time, and they understand that we're here to help them, make things easier for them. Ultimately, we believe that makes a much happier community. Why is it happy? Because it's a financially sound, fiscally responsible community based on trust, cooperation, and coordination. So when we think of the role of the coordinators, these are three things that come to mind.
Can I add one on that last part, Scott? Guys have anxiety around money. Guys have been shamed before for not making enough money or not being good with their bank checkbook and stuff. And so I've noticed guys have an anxiety, and we can help them with that shadow. It's like, no, you can do this. Here's the link. You click on this, and this is the form, and walk them through it, and get them out of the relationship between money, spending, and pain to money, spending, and easy. So that's where I was coming from.
Okay, the next topic under this paradigm is, what do we need to do? What should we be doing in terms of reporting on the financial stability of our communities? And so I've titled this the AFC Financial Report, the Area Financial Coordinator Financial Report. And the key here, less is more. When I was preparing this presentation, I was drawing upon my experience in doing these type of reports for San Diego for the past 4 years. In the first 2 or 3 that I did, it was 10, 15 pages long, contains a lot of information. And what I quickly observed is that nobody gave a shit about pages 2 through 12. So and I understand that. And so I've really kind of honed it down to what's really the key information for my community. And this is what I want to convey to you, is that what you see here is an example of what Scott McGregor does in Santa Barbara and what I do in San Diego, but it may be different for your community. You have your finger on the pulse of what's going on in the community. We want to provide you a template of some of the things that you could use, and then you feel free to add or remove information that's not relevant to your respective community. But one of the things I like to report on is a review of the prior year's financials. So in San Diego, I'm looking at the first quarter of the year. I'm looking at our actuals and I'm comparing it to our budget. And I'm also reporting on the variances.
I think if you go right to the report,
okay,
these points are there.
Now, can everyone see the report, the full report, or is the videos getting in the way?
We're seeing the Zoom presentation.
Great. Okay. So on the left, this is the...
No, sorry. We're seeing the QuickBooks
okay.
budget to actual. We're not seeing that Google.
Great. Okay. So here's an example of what I was referring to. So this is the profit and loss budget versus actual. And what I'm reporting here is the totals. As you can see at the top of the screen, under columns, totals only. So right now, each of your areas has this report built in on your memorized reports. And a quick side note, to access this, we actually refer you to our QuickBooks presentation, which is online and available. And there's a link to it in this presentation that'll also be available to you online. But it'll show you step by step how to get to these reports. But when you run this, this is what I'm looking at. This is what I'm reporting on. I'm letting our council know, okay, this is how we did January through March. This is what we spent money on. And then here's our budget. And then,
and for us, it's fascinating. It's informative to run it by class, so we see how much each event and thing did on a profit and loss. And for the council, that's probably overwhelming. I like to report at the end of a training, the NWTA made $1,100, or this event lost so much. But to give them a report with a lot of classes would be overwhelming.
right, LA, South Central, NorCal. You guys have got 15, 16 classes. And so this report will just be, it's a bunch of numbers and their eyes will gloss over and it's like they're reading Chinese. They just, so what I recommend is just abbreviating it to just this. You can have that on the back end so that you need to explain, hey, why am my site rental over by $1,900? You'll have that knowledge. You can refer to it. Oh, it was this NWTA in February. They actually jacked up the price or whatever the reason may be. But that leads to the second thing I'm pointing on here. I'm showing them what our net gain was for the year, but I'm also explaining the variances. And so, like, if I'm looking at this, I would want to explain why is the site rental over $1,900? You know, what happened there? So again, this is just an illustrative. When I'm pointing out or reflecting on the first quarter review, this is the information that I want to share with the financial council. Give them an idea of how we did the first quarter. Did we gain or did we lose? And then I'm explaining the variances. Now, one thing we want to point out is that, again, you have these reports underneath your respective areas in QuickBooks. When you are pulling this report, we ask that you take a look at the net income under the budget versus actual, and then compare it to the actual P&L report, which is also a memorized report, and make sure those two numbers tie. And the reason for that is that as we're adding events throughout the year, we're adding classes, the budget was set up at the beginning of the year. And because we're adding these event and classes, the budget, the coding behind it needs to be updated accordingly. If those don't two match, please let us know and we'll go back and adjust the coding so that they do match. Otherwise, we won't be representing the complete picture to our councils. Any question about that? Okay. So we've actually, what I've learned, and I know Santa Barbara does this as well, it's not enough just to show them the financial reports. What I like to do is prepare a summary page so that, you mean, really, what information, what's the takeaway here? And this is probably, to me, the most important aspect of the information I'm presenting to the council is this summary page, where I'm talking about the prior period, I'm talking about upcoming events, I'm talking about accounts receivable, and I just summarize it for them. And then if any of them has a bee in their bonnet to say, I want more detail, then I also attach this P&L that we just looked at so they can go in and find additional information. But more often than not, I say 9 out of 10 people that I present this to, all they're focused on is the top summary. You know, what's my takeaway here? Scott, do we want to break away and show them the full?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So here is a sample financial report for Santa Barbara.
Nothing showing. Nothing showing, brother. Just your face. It's beautiful, but that's not what you
see that? By design. Let's see here. Thank you, Walt. Here we go. There we go. How about that?
Yeah.
Okay. So here's a sample financial report for Santa Barbara's upcoming council meeting. And the first thing he talks about is NWTA. So they have an NWTA coming up in May. And so he's just presenting information about who has signed up, what the budget is. What I like about this is that it just creates a sense of, I would call it urgency with the community. When we're reporting on this, we're letting them know, guys, we're at 13, we have a budget of 20, we need everyone's help to try and drive that up to 20 for the upcoming weekend. So this is a great way to communicate to the council, who are the leaders of our community, in terms of what's upcoming and where do we need their support. At the same time, if he had an NWT in the first quarter, this would also be a good area for him to report on that. We had 28 men attend, our budget was 20. Here's some other key takeaways from that training or any other trainings we had in the first quarter.
And Scott, if I could just mention there on that one, the limitation of our budget reports is that we have to put in each month when we think those expenses are going to fall. And so there's always going to be a timing challenge with a budget to actual report. And as the year goes on, it becomes more accurate and meaningful. But when you said, like, why is that $900 or $1,900 variance in site cost? It's just because we paid $1,000 deposit for our September training. And so that's just something you have to be aware of in case you get the questions.
Right. So you may have already seen this or noticed it if you're pulling up your current budget to actual. I know for San Diego, we have a training in April and we have a training in May. And the LT2 training, all that money was collected in March. So when you look at our revenues, you'll see we are $8,000 over budget for the first quarter. And really the explanation for that is that these are prepaid revenues for our April and May event coming up. So good point. So Scott's also bringing up, upcoming events that he really wants to call attention to the council. We have the Earth Day, we've got Circle of Men coming up, Open Eye Groups, and we have the Pride Festival in July. And he's also giving them a sense of, this is what we've budgeted for those events. Again, this is a nice reminder to the leaders, because presumably someone on that team is the chairperson for one of these events. And it's always a good reminder, this is what we've got budgeted for the upcoming event. He's also reporting on membership. Each of us has a budgeted amount for membership, and this is really a key area to help support MKP collectively and help grow it. It's just to keep this present in everyone's mind, is that this is what we've budgeted, this is where we're at year to date, and keep that conversation going. Let's see here. And I don't know if this has been made public yet. Scott, stop me if it hasn't. But so we just learned today, so he's reporting on it as well for his council, is that there will not be an IGC meeting this year. And as you know, all of us had budgeted money for that. And so, this is a good opportunity to talk about, what does the area want to do? And one of the ideas that Scott came up with is a brilliant idea is, this money had been earmarked for the I-Group Council to send men there. What about taking that money and then reinvesting it in our areas for the I-Group to help grow I-Groups in whatever capacity that may look like for, say, Asheville or Northern California or San Diego?
Yeah, and that's just started that conversation today, so that'll go on more. We're going to present it to the area center council meeting tomorrow. But just in case you didn't get the message, because that's either going out today or tomorrow, the area steward meeting is planned for late July in Racine, Wisconsin. And that official announcement will go out tomorrow.
Yeah.
So again, the idea here is keep it simple. And with that in mind, we go to mine. Here's what I present for San Diego. So, and this is what I got in the habit of doing when I was meeting with the board of directors, is I would basically just put bullet points. Here's where we're at year to date. This is what we've got coming up. Here's some of the variances. And then I would attach the financials to it. This, I don't know, is effective in the New World Order, where we're not meeting on a regular basis in San Diego. And I think what I'm going to actually do is revise mine to look more like Santa Barbara. So I'm providing a little story for each of these, because I know there's going to be questions. And given that we're not meeting face-to-face, I'm not there to answer those questions. But this kind of just gives you an idea of what I'm reporting to San Diego, is that our year-to-date is a net gain. And I want to point that out. I don't say income, net income, or net loss, because really we're nonprofit. It's not about earning income. So either we're gaining or we're taking away in terms of our net assets. And so what I'm reporting here is that we're actually ahead. Our budget year to date was a $400 takeaway from our net assets. we're actually ahead $1,200. So we have a net gain of $800. And this is primarily due to our February NWTA, where we had 8 more men than we had budgeted. I'm also talking about donations and memberships. I want to keep this present in mind that we're actually $600 less than budget year to date. And, this is an area that we need to focus on as a community and keep the focus on. I'm also explaining that there's some reasons why our expenses were higher. We had to buy a new laptop for our NWTA. And then I'm also reporting on our restricted funds. And in San Diego, it's called our TOSI account. So I'm using that language. But at the national level, it's the scholarship fund. And so I'm reporting where we're at year to date. How does that compare year over year? And the reason I'm making that distinction between year over year is that we just had a big fundraising drive, much to the chagrin of Dan Baldwin. But we had this huge fundraising drive and driving money to scholarship at the request of our elders. And so that's why we saw a near 100% increase in our scholarship fund. And then
I'd like to. Were you complete on this?
Yeah, one more thought. And then we really had one significant event in the past 3 months, and that was our NWTA training. So I'm providing feedback. This is the first feedback that our community will have received on, okay, how did we do? Other than the men that attended the weekend. So the community at large, and there's 100, so it's 80% of the men didn't attend the weekend, so really have no idea. And this is really was a fantastic weekend for San Diego because we had canceled last year's February weekend. So I'm going to report on this and explain, we had 28 men. From a financial standpoint, this is what we did, how we did. And so I want to share in some of that celebration with the community. That's all I had, Scott, on that.
Thank you. I'd like to just get some feedback from you guys. Like, how many of you do a report for council? How many hands going up?
I have been using the year to date, which hasn't been helpful until this year when you started the actual versus budgeted. So that's been helpful. And I've just been submitting that to the council, and we talk about what's going on. The problem, as you know, is the lag time, and that's all being addressed. So what I'm seeing here is some vast improvements and excitement and useful reports. So I like what you guys are doing and the tweaking of it. And I like the idea of presenting it.
Thanks, Walt. It sounds like you stick with the reports as your main material you give them, and then you talk the other part.
That's what I had been doing, and that's not very effective. Men's ears gloss over. I like the idea of providing the report and the summary that you've done, which I haven't been doing, and then talk about any questions. So this is a nice one.
Thanks.
And if you've ever seen ears gloss over, it's not pretty.
So I have ran the report and talked about it and shared my screen, and then I get the ears and the eyes that gloss over. So I really, though, we have a steward council meeting this Sunday, and so my intention is to get that P&L and profit, or the other one, budget versus actual, print it up, send it out so that men can look at that. And I like the idea of the cover page. I never thought of doing that. I have a question about the first one. You talked about membership, and I'm not even sure we have that in our budget. And what is the approach you do with that? How is it that you report a membership in the budget versus the actual? Do you have a goal?
Yeah, so in all of our budgets, I did plug in, when I send it out to all the areas, a membership. So there it could be $100, and it was based on how the area did in the prior 2 years. So there is a placeholder there, and so that's sort of just a guide mark for 2015. And then what we could do to support you is that if you want to know how the area is doing year to date, it's actually, you're on your P&L, you'll see it. There's a line item that says membership. And so you'll be able to see, okay, we've collected $200 to date versus, okay, this is what we had budgeted. And what you notice is that whatever we had put in the placeholder in the Google sheet, I just averaged it over 12 months. And so that's a plug in your in your corresponding P&L.
So I have a question about membership. There's rumor in the Asheville area that if men contribute to MKP USA, the area does not get a kickback or half or whatever. I know there's been specific membership drives where that number has increased and it's coming back to the area. Some men believe that's always happening. Other men believe that it's not.
Let me clarify, Robert. So membership is a 50-50 match. So when a guy from your area gives $100, 50 goes to USA and 50 directly to your area. And
so that's all the time.
Yeah.
All right. So I can nip that one in the bud and move on. All right. Good.
And then Robert, when you look at your P&L, okay, and you'll see that membership line, the revenue, that represents the 50% portion that Asheville has received. Great question.
Yeah, because so you might see a guy gave $5 but really gave 10.
Okay.
So I have a concern about this, though. There are men that have given cash to me, and I'm ending up getting all these credits and thank you. And it's not me. Looks great.
Robert's membership is good,
but I'm not giving that money. So I don't. Is there a way that can be rectified?
Yeah, the best way is when you make the deposit and you're using obviously or presumably a check. What we'd recommend you do is you list the men that actually gave the contribution. So it's that man, and you're telling me. I'm the one that actually goes into and plugs in, okay, it was John Doe, it was Tim Smith, it was Tom Tuttle. They're the ones making the donations, and that's how I'll plug it into Civi. So even though it may be a check from you, just need to let me know, put the man's name and the contribution he made, and you even put cash. Even though, so if you had $100 check that you wrote to MKP USA and it represents 10 men that gave $10, I would list individually each of the man's name, $10, and I'd put cash. That way, that's how I'm coding it in Civi, so that if you ever go back into Civi and say, okay, who did what, you'll see, okay, this man paid cash.
Yeah, Civi is our database that's tied to MKP Connect for all donations. And, when you go to that membership page, if you're logged in to MKP Connect and you do a donation for John Doe, because you're logged in, it thinks it's you. And so that's where you got to be careful. You either got to open up a new browser window or go incognito. Somehow make sure that doesn't take whatever information, because then what's going to happen is it's what we call a munge, which means it'll still have your name, but it'll have all his address, phone number, all these things. And so if that does happen, you munge, then Scott Ryder is again the guy to unmunge.
So one final thought, when we're working on our year-end or quarter-end financials and we're preparing this report, the actual review process, it will require for you to go in your financials and review them and make sure that they are, correct. So when I was doing San Diego's, it took me 2 to 3 hours to get them to the point where, okay, this is an accurate reflection. And the purpose of this is that it goes to PEX reports. So I noticed there were about 15, 16 transactions in San Diego that were coded incorrectly. And the reason is that I have not submitted my PEX reconciliation reports to QuickBooks or to IgniteSpot. Exactly. Shame on me. They say doctors make the worst patients. Okay. So I'm behind on that. And so what that does, there's a consequence to this. And the consequence is twofold. It costs me an additional 2 or 3 hours at the end of the quarter to go through and review it and correct it. But it's also costing IgniteSpot too, because I got to send them the corrections. And so they're having to do double work. When I don't give them the PEX report, they have to code it into QuickBooks, and then they have to make some blanket assumptions about where those expenses go, because I haven't told them. And so they will drop it where they think and oftentimes it's not the correct place because they're not as knowledgeable about San Diego's, guts as I am, or and so again, stressing our PEX reports, we've got to get them in. I've got to get mine in by the 10th of each month. So that gives IgniteSpot a chance to upload it to our QuickBooks so that when we do look at our month-end reports, they are an accurate and true reflection of the financial performance.
Wow, thank you, Scott. That was vulnerable, and can you mute for a second, Robert?
Sure. I just want to say I haven't done mine at all.
All right. It sounds like we should have confession time. Everybody that has PEX cards reports that aren't in yet, just put it out there. Let the universe take it and just get them done. But that other part that it causes problems is we don't have any receipts. So if you had a $2,000 PEX card for March and we don't have any receipts from that and our auditor sees that, then she's going to change the way she looks at us and it's going to cost more money. And a lot of ugly things can happen when she knows, like, Bill.com, every receipt is there for every purchase. It's just like, high five, you guys are the best nonprofit ever. So please get us those receipts. And I want to make it easy for guys. So I tell my MOS guy, dude, just when you're at Costco, take your phone, picture that receipt right there and just text it to me. I'll do the rest. Try to make it easy.
So that brings up something. Do you only need the total of that receipt?
But picture the whole receipt.
All right, so I got one from the Restaurant Depot, and it was like 2 feet long. Okay? It took me three scans to get it. So, no. My arms aren't that long.
Cut it and put it on an 8.5 by 11. Michael, what do you want to say?
Just a quick question. You're talking about quarterly reports. I'm coming up to a monthly meeting next meeting. Is there something even simpler that we go to monthly meetings, or is it kind of the same thing?
It would be just a much simpler version of what we just showed. I mean, do they want to see the financials on a monthly basis?
Honestly, I don't know. I'm going to have a little chat with Brad. But and then one other question I had, which hasn't come up, is around, and I'm not sure if this is a Republic of Northern California problem or around the country, but when there is a reasonable amount of fund, what Brad sort of handed to me is we've got a kind of chunk of money in the bank and no one's really talking about spending it. Is it my job to say, hey, what is it that we want to spend this on? Or is that someone else's job? The question to Scott or Scott.
Yeah, I'm appreciating that. Great question.
That's a great question, yeah.
I think that's going beyond the AFC role into a role of like a community development, and it's awesome. And you are welcome to bring that. I wouldn't say that that's our job, but at the same time, if you have inspiration, say, hey, let's take these idle funds and engage them in the mission to help us build community, bring Dan Baldwin in personally, jumpstart membership. So many ways to engage that money. And it just takes someone like you to say, hey, I'll lead it.
Not this week.
See, isn't that the shitty thing about MKP? It's like if you come up with an idea, they say, well, okay, do it.
I still got to figure out QuickBooks.
So, in an example, we had a man do that in San Diego, Michael, where he stepped up and said, I want to do this type of marketing campaign for upcoming Gateway. And it's being patterned after what Houston did to help really drive up the men. And it's one of those things where we're making an investment in the community. And so we're actually using some of those funds, from the funds that we gained from our going well over our budget on NWTA for February. But that's what we're doing. We're investing it in this campaign. And it's ads in magazines. It's going to get hopefully some radio play. We're getting interviews. And ideally what we're doing is hopefully to drive up the number of men that become aware of Mankind Project and who we are. So. All right. Now, one last thing, sort of the epilogue. One of the questions inevitably that challenges you're going to be presented with is, okay, when you're looking at your P&L, okay, great, how do I print this and put it in a manner that it's meaningful and easily looked at. And what we have found, what I have found is that if I email it to myself in Excel, and then I use Excel to kind of shrink it and then PDF it, and that's what I send out. Literally PDF it or emailing a PDF in QuickBooks doesn't get the look that I want. It's when I tried it this morning, it was 4 pages when it only should have been 2. So what I like to do is email myself an Excel version, and then I go in and do this. So this is what my Excel version looks like. And so I was able to go through, shrink the columns, and then I added notes. So this is when I talk about variance explanations, that's what you're seeing on the right. So I'm just putting in little notes to myself and then to the reader, okay, to help him or her understand, or him understand, not really women looking at this, but okay, this is why there's variances in these categories. So, but again, what I was able to do is,
nice. That is approachable, easy to read and understand. I really like that.
So thank you. So yeah, put it in Excel, drop in the explanation, and then I PDF it. And I think all of our machines have the capability to do this. If not, I will show you how to do it. But literally it's just printing it and saving it as a PDF. And then this is what I'll email out to the council. Now, again, we're going to have copies of all this available on the finance homepage. So that's our presentation. That's our powwow for April. I should have stopped recording before I did my confession, but now that's on public record. I'm going to stop recording now so we can check out.